Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, You've Only Failed If You Stop, with Jimmy Armitage. We talk about the benefits and lessons from playing rugby, how you treat others will come back to you, and why he was nicknamed Captain Dorito.
Jimmy has spent his 34 years on the planet becoming comfortable in his own skin, understanding what he enjoys, what he's good at, and what makes him happy. His three main focuses presently are family, martial arts, which is a rugby substitute, and his business Wavelength. He gets to live the values he holds most dear in all aspects of his life. Simple, honest, impact, individual, positivity, fun and growth. When you realise that by making yourself happy and content, you can help others to become the same, life can be great. Back yourself, what's the worst that can happen? We are very excited to be the first people in the office in the back garden of your house in Barrow upon Humber. For anybody who doesn't know where that is, it's North Lincolnshire, or if you're coming from the north, go over the Humber Bridge and you're pretty much there. So thank you very much for letting us come in and impose ourselves on you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. As a long-time listener and first-time speaker of the pod, it's cool to be on here.
Cool. So,
But I guess we've got to ask, will you be listening to your own podcast then?
I'm sure I will be, and cringing throughout all of it.
that is the aim. So, talk us through your journey. Where did you start?
That's a wide question, Michelle.
I know.
Thank you very much. So, without taking you through my whole life story, I can't imagine that's going to be massively exciting for everybody. I was born in Bradford, but quickly moved to a little place called Beverley in East Yorkshire. Went to school in Hull, or as everyone knows it locally, Hull, primary school, because my mum worked in Hull, so it was easy to drop me off. Mm-hmm. And nothing too particularly exciting happened there. I've always been pretty cheeky and had a terrible attitude to authority with my cheekiness, rather than being anything too naughty. And was one of those kids that if you're told not to push the red button, I would have absolutely pushed the red button. Drove my mother insane. God bless you, Lynn, if you're listening. So that's pretty much that. Yeah, just always enjoyed sport, having a laugh. Pretty much my childhood was atypical of everyone's, really. I think just being excited on bikes, kicking a football about. My house backed onto, when we moved to Beverley, my house backed onto Beverley Rugby Club. So my dad enjoyed a cheeky pint or 12 and used to use the rugby club as his back garden. It is his local, should I say, over the back garden, and I'd go with him. So my heroes growing up were Beverley Rugby Club's first team, and rugby wasn't even professional then, so it was literally just a bunch of blokes who worked really hard and as you know, James, and went out and got stuck in, and that's been shaped my view of the world, rightly or wrongly, for a large part of it. So it was a big part of my childhood. I'm quite proud of this stat. I've played in every single team Beverley Rugby Club has on offer, from the youngest to the oldest / slowest teams that they have.
Go on.
Which is about all I can qualify for these days if I ever run out. So
That's really cool.
So that's pretty much my early childhood. Got an older sister who's 4.5 years older than me. Used to beat me up because she's 4.5 years older, and girls are way taller than boys. So when you've got a sister who's like 8.5 and you're 4, or 12.5 and you're 8, you're getting it until you're big enough to fight back. So I think I was about 21 by the time that happened. So yeah.
So, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up, or
I think I've
accident?
Yeah, there's definitely nothing planned. I legitimately just wanted to be happy, and being stubborn, which is a family trait, and anyone in my family who tells you it's not is a liar. And as an aside, a beautiful thing, karma, is having kids, isn't it? And when you get 2 carbon copies of yourself, you realise I just like to apologise to the world for how annoying I've been, because now I've got 2 kids that do that to me. But yeah, I've always just wanted to do what makes me happy. And I can remember at nursery, I can remember because Mum's got a horrifying picture that she brings out all the time, is they had a fancy dress event for all the kids and you had to go dressed as what you want to be when you're older. And even though, I mean, I was like 4 or something, I didn't know what a career was or any of that stuff. I went dressed as a rugby player. And you couldn't even be a professional rugby player in like 1989 because you didn't go professional until like 94, 95 or whatever it was. So just rocked up in my rugby kit and was like, I'll just play rugby. That's what I'll do. I remember, do you remember careers advice when you were at school? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And your beautiful National Record of Achievement folder that was going to be crucial to your life that you've never used once.
I don't even know if I've got one anymore. I don't know. It's probably been binned.
I don't know what's in there. Probably like I could swim 10 metres was in there or something. Employ me. I could swim 10 metres.
Congratulations.
But yeah, I remember being in careers advice and the teacher back in the day was Mr. Jones at Beverley Grammar School, trying to talk me into, because I was, well, we were just talking off air about our Myers-Briggs scores and how I'm a debater. That was debater, guys, if you picked that up wrong. And tried to talk me into being a barrister.
Really?
At one point, yeah, and then I realised there was a lot of studying involved. It was quite expensive, and I thought, not really my route. Thanks, Chief. I'll just carry on regardless and see what happens. So yeah, I never really had a career in mind. I looked at all sorts of stuff, but just enjoyed rugby. Got all right at it as well, so it kind of genuinely was completely accidentally. I think it became a genuine career path I could have taken. So if it weren't for ability.
What position did you play?
So being a very slight legend that I am, tighted prop, which for anyone who doesn't know anything about rugby, and it's shame on you because the Rugby World Cup's on, so you should be upskilling yourself. But he's basically one of the fat ones that stands at the front and pushes. That's what I was. So, which is, it's quite weird because rugby will come up probably a lot in this, but I'm conscious that a lot of people don't A, know or B, care about rugby, so I'll keep it to a minimum. But basically, where that is now is the guys who play that position, and the girls to be fair, because the women's rugby team for England are kick-ass as well. Well done, ladies. Are basically like powerlifters, big, strong units, and they've got massive legs and big backsides on them, big, powerful lads. And my nickname for rugby was Captain Dorito because I look like an upside-down triangle and cannot put any size on my legs for love nor money. So, boys can be so cruel. Yeah, so I think basically...
Call him that from now on.
Yeah, why did I just say this on a podcast? Idiot.
It's like, today's podcast is with Captain Dorito.
You just got to embrace your nicknames, don't you? You can't fight them, otherwise you get them even more. But yeah, basically...
I need to get in touch with Lynn for the photos.
Yeah, she will massively dog me in as well. She's the right stitch-up eyes. Don't do it, Mum. Don't do it. But yes, I love rugby. Enjoyed that. I'm just naturally not that big to play that position. It might seem weird because compared to the average person, so I'm 6 at the moment. I'm 6'1.5", depending on how much my spine's been crushed at the moment, and I'm 16.5 stone. And the boys who are playing that position now are probably 19, 20, 21 stone, and they haven't got anywhere near as much fat on them as I have these days. So they are big old beasts. My dad was 5'9" and 10.5/11 stone. So my genetics are not ideal for being a monster. But being the stubborn, belligerent fool that I am, I decided that I wouldn't change position and I'd just stick at it and get beaten up regularly. So, yeah.
It's formative though, isn't it?
Apparently so.
I played on the wing, so I learned to sidestep and avoid the big guys. And if ever I got caught in some kind of ruck, or there was a bit of a few fists flying, the front row would always grab me by the scruff of the neck. It's like, get back on the wing. What you doing in there? Let us sort it out. And then the fists would come flying in.
That's nice.
So yeah, I was always well looked after. Stop getting your shorts dirty, James. Get back on the wing.
Good man. Unfortunately, I had no wheels whatsoever, no speed. That is for any non-slang users. So I had no option. By nature, slow and rubbish. Get over there. All right. But yes, it's definitely been something that, in terms of forming who I am, rugby's like. So I've literally played it my whole life, and I've been experiencing it my whole life. So I'm 34 now. Been at rugby club since I was 1. Playing in the under-8s when I was 5, because I think they just felt sorry for me enough that I was running up and down this touchline with my own ball that they thought I might as well just let this kid join in. So, or there were short numbers, I don't know, something. But I've just been doing it ever since. Happily, properly retired from rugby now due to 2 chocolate knees and the fact that I am slow and getting softer by the day because I can't handle having my nose broken. And bigger boys came and they go to the gym more. So, yeah.
There's a lot of good lessons, aren't there, that come out of rugby, we were talking about earlier. Of the kind of... I've always found it's kind of respect for authority. There's, there's... Well... elements of leadership, you've got different positions. There's something for everyone almost. I know nowadays players are kind of a bit more uniform in size. You've got, in the old days, you could have someone who's much shorter at scrum half. You've got the tall, lanky kid in the second row. There's something for everybody, and you're kind of not leaving your mates in a mess if things are going south. So there's a lot I got out of rugby of teamwork, and I guess it helps build confidence. That sort of element. Definitely.
I still think, even though they all look like absolute monsters now, no matter what size they are, rugby is an amazing sport, and it is definitely such a diverse. You can literally be 7 foot or 5 foot playing. You can be, if you're fast, there's a space for you. If you're a big, strong lad, but maybe not that quick, there's a place for you. If you're big, strong and quick, brilliant, there's loads of places for you. If you are quite clever and you are a good strategic person and you might have skills that some people might attribute to playing chess or something like that, there's a place for you. It's even if you're not that good, it's just a really good place to go down. And especially that awkward age of being kids, where you're trying to find yourself in your teenage years, but even before that, confidence. You just get to socialise. The best lessons I've got from rugby are nothing to do with what's been on the pitch. I'm not very good attitude to authority, but it's definitely a lot better through rugby. Just, going to different countries, staying away for a month from home. I went on a tour of South America in Argentina, Chile, and then Brazil. We played no rugby in Brazil. It was marvellous. 5 days in Rio. But, it's things like getting to know people. So you go on a rugby bus. So there's 30 people on a bus. There might be five of those 30 people might be adults. You've got to figure out who on the bus is an extrovert, who's an introvert. So you can probably tell I'm quite chatty. I'm a big extrovert. I love being in amongst large groups of people. It energises me. Some people you might be rooming with, or you're sitting on a bus, can do it for a bit, but it tires them out. They might want to put their headphones on, chill to some music. That's their life lessons. That's understanding how to read people, what other people need. Just there's so many amazing lessons, to be honest. And the coolest thing I liked about rugby, or one of the things looking back, is you can't answer really too well if you're in a balanced team who's the best player. Because someone might say to you, who's the best player on the team? And what you have to say is, at what? What do you mean? Do you mean the best kicker, the fastest player, the best person at breaking a tackle, the best person at making a tackle, the strongest one, the best person in a line out, the best person tactically? And it's such a good metaphor for life, is that when you get your head in that space, you realise it trains you to be really comfortable. I remember going into my first world of work and just seeing, it was really weird, like how defensive people were about what they're not good at. Because I didn't have that context. I understand it more now because I've seen so many organisations where appraisals come along and you've got to be, basically, it's like, oh, right, yeah, let's do your appraisal today. Okay, so you need to have the vision of Steve Jobs and you need to be as logical as Mark Zuckerberg, and empathy of Mother Teresa, and
really, really organised.
yeah. And you're on £21,000 a year, and you've not scored very high in all 4 of these. You're a bad person, and it's just weird because it's BS, right? So he didn't swear. Yes. Yet, yeah, there's still time, but it's just really weird because in rugby, someone would go, "Oh, you're not very quick," and you go, "No, I know that because there's 15 pillars run past me," or "I made a break and got caught in 5 meters," which is quite upsetting. Or "You're not very good at kicking." Yeah, no.
That's what the number 10's for.
Yeah, because I just tried to kick one and it went straight out. It went backwards. But you're so used to what you can and can't do. And you're also used to being judged, which is cool. So like you go to trials, and that's the same for any sport you do, or well, not even just sport, is it? You could be doing performing arts, trying to make it into the performance. My niece does that. Whatever, you're just getting used to it. You just get comfortable. And you just develop the attitude of, yeah, I'm just going to get on with it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. I can't really control that. So bring it on.
That's brilliant. Okay, so moving to the world of work.
Yes.
When did you start that, or what did you do?
Into work in general.
Actual work.
Yeah, so actual work.
Who paid you first?
Well, I don't know if you call it as actual work. I had a few sort of exciting sidelines. I was a Sunday paper boy deliverer.
Oh, wow.
Heavy those Sunday papers, but I resigned my big post there. Post, no pun intended, actually. Resigned my commission in the newspaper boy because I was late for rugby on one Sunday when we still played on Sundays, and I got dropped. So I was like, right, never delivering papers ever again. And then I worked in a butcher's shop for a bit, which was interesting. So bagging liver is not the one for anyone who's feeling a little bit queasy. So I think vacuum packing is what you call it, where you put it in the plastic bag and you put it in the machine. Yeah, liver is a horrible, horrible substance, and I will never eat it. So that my first proper job, well, semi-proper job, was when I was at university. I played rugby at a club at the time. I say I played rugby. Tried to play rugby, carried a lot of water on for Bedford Blues, and I got a little bit of money helping do the bar there as well, carrying some beer kegs about and stuff. And my first sort of organised job was working in a bar in Wetherspoons whilst at uni, which meant most of my mates trying to tap me up for drinks, and that was a right laugh. So anyone who's an extrovert, work in a bar, it's genius. Michelle's nodding.
Yeah, I did that as well. Wasn't the Wetherspoons, but yeah,
well,
similar city centre bar.
If you can't cut it in the highbrow establishments like myself,
In Sunderland.
people coming in for a strongbow at 9 a.m. The breakfast of champions.
Yep, gonna have my full English fry up and a lager. It's like, okay.
The best one's when they're queuing at the till and it's like, I can't serve it yet because it's 8:58. In 2 minutes, this strongbow is yours, chief. But yeah, that was brilliant. And then my first proper job, like where I put my big boy pants on and actually had to generally be responsible, would have been for a local company around here now, Beer House Self Drive. So, and probably worth a shout out to the old boy. Filter, owned by a guy called Matt Campy, but my direct boss was a chap called Phil Moses, who was a guy who was interested by this podcast, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a Phil.
Hi, Phil.
Yeah. Hi, Phil. And to this day, still the best boss I've ever had.
Oh.
So he was genuinely, learned a lot from Phil, actually, in terms of sort of lessons. And he's got a big background in sport. He's a big fan of football. Did a bit of that until he got chocolate knees. So that was, I was the dizzy heights of a rental operative. So Beer House Self Drive is renting out vehicles. And actually, one of the things Phil really got me to see, I was completely unself-aware at this point. So I was going in as an operational role. Now, anyone who works for me today knows my attention to details not marvellous. And I actually really like talking to people. And so taking on a job where I do that, I tend to get bored quite a bit. I did all that and I did bits and pieces and what have you, but he also started to get me to do a little bit of talking to regular accounts. I don't know if I was quite an account manager, but starting to do a bit of that. You know, we regularly just give them a call, see how they're getting on, ask these questions, try to bring a bit of sales in. You know, we're going to try and move these over the summer. We've got others around the yard. We're going to try doing this. It helped the fact that at this point I was living in a house with other rugby players, and Phil was putting on prizes such as a crate of beer or a bottle of Jack Daniels. Now, when you're 22 and you ain't got a lot of money and you're living with other rugby players, they are high reward items. I was engaged and motivated for that role, and I got to take the spoils home sometimes, which was quite nice. So pretty cool stuff.
I used to get paid in pizza. I used to work in a pizza shop at university as well. So I used to get 20 quid in a pizza. It's mint. I literally got in. It was like roadkill people like trying to take my pizza off me, like, get back. I've been smelling this all night. This is my pizza. To the point where I started putting chicken and pineapple on because nobody likes that pizza.
Winner.
I know. But yes. What other lessons did he teach you, Phil?
I think inadvertently, recognising what you're strong at, play to your strengths. The biggest lesson he taught me was he was really honest with me and basically said, why are you working here? And so the backstory to why I was working there, which is probably far too long, but long and the short of it, my dad passed away when I was 21. So I was living down in Bedford with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, ladies and gentlemen. That's, you know.
Congratulations.
Well done for putting up with me, Sam, for all this time. You deserve a medal. But my dad passed away, so I moved back up north. I got the interview for the job with Phil through Beverley Rugby Club. Beer House were a sponsor. I went and said I was smashing bloke, did all that. But basically, he could tell I didn't really have my heart set on being a rental operative. And he could see me getting a bit frustrated. Not necessarily frustrated, just not sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to sort of grow a bit. And I'd moved back to Beverley after being away and being down south, and it was a bit small for me. I wasn't really enjoying it. And Sam was still living down in Bedford. So I was like, oh, and he just said, look, I don't think, and this is one of the things that to my dying day I'll respect him for, was just to say, I don't think we've got the role that you need in this organisation yet. I think we're quite a few years away, and I don't think you're going to last it. Like, we're just hanging around for it. I just really respect the fact that he put my interests first, you know, or at least it felt like it. Now, subsequently, I've had a pint with him. He said, yeah, but also I knew you'd be a real dick if you stuck around, because you'd just be really annoying. So I was like,
causing trouble.
Oh man, I thought you were just, yeah, but he definitely wasn't wrong. But yeah, I just thought that was a really cool thing to do. And so I went to leave. Rugby, we can touch on this if you want, I was doing all right so I'd come back because my dad passed away, but actually I had opportunities. And one of my mates at Bedford was having a testimonial, so he'd done 10 years at Bedford. In fact, miles better player than me. But a load of players came, big name players and all sorts of people came to play in that team. I got a message to see if I'd go and play in it. I played in it. A couple of clubs were watching it and sort of said, well, what are you doing? We'd like you to come play. So I had some offers on the table. I wanted to move back down there anyway. So I was like, okay. So eventually I said, right, I think I'm going to have to go, Phil.
And he was like, for you?
Yeah, he was so relieved. He was doing backflips. I was like, Phil, come on.
Here's some Jack Daniels and some beer. Bye.
Yeah. Why are you crying? What's going on? No, basically, so I think I had either 1 month or 2 month notice in my contract. And he just sort of said, because he'd been really good to me, and he just sort of said, look, I don't want to be short-staffed. I don't want to have to pick somebody that's not the right fit for the team. They were one of the first companies that I knew. They talked about it, their DNA. They're either us or they're not. And he's like, I don't want to take anyone who's not us. I know you're going to go. Will you do me a favour and will you stick here until we get the right person? And because he's been so good, I was like, look, I'll make a phone call because pre-season training starts. And if someone's paying you, I didn't want to miss it. I did want to miss it. Absolutely did want to miss it. And so I ended up not going back until 4 months, I think. But it completely deserved it because he was such a cool bloke. And then to this day, as I say, you know, like what are we now? Probably 13 years on. Still go meet him for a beer. As I said, best bloke I've ever worked for. He's a real smashing guy. So yeah, I went off and I actually ended up working for a food company that was connected to Beer House. So it's a very long-winded answer to that question, wasn't it? What did I learn from Phil? But one of the other things that I learned...
Can you remember what the question was now?
Yeah. Where am I? Hi, who am I? But one of the big life lessons I learned from that experience is how you treat people will come back. And so I got an interview with a job on nearly double what I was earning at Beer House a year later because I'd left them on the right terms. And I very much believe that if I hadn't and I'd have just looked after myself, where I'm sitting right now wouldn't be the same place. Just a good bit of karma, really, life lesson, really.
So food was the next step. Was that within sort of...
Food's always been the step with me.
It's like, what time is it? Time for lunch.
Where's that fridge?
So what sort of role was that then? Was that something to do with sales, account management, or was that something totally different?
So I started out at the bottom. I mean, I don't want to paint my life to be too glamorous because I don't need to be envious, guys, but I basically went around Tesco's teaching them how to cook sausage rolls.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, there's Richard Branson and then there's me. So so that was the company Market Fresh that I was working for had just won a big contract to put sausage rolls and such at the front of the stores, and we had to roll out about 700 stores in quite a short amount of time. So I started off there. It's not that exciting. Just going to meet loads of people and trying to use your people skills to talk to people who might not be that career motivated. They're working behind a hot counter. They would always like to have more of them to serve people. It's retail. At the end of the day, it's quite difficult for anyone. I mean, most people have had some experience of it. And just trying to use your people skills to win them over. People who are, I'm like, what am I at this point? 24 maybe? Something like that. I don't know. What do I know? Trying to tell invariably 40, 50, 60-year-old women that this is what they need to do. So if you try and go route one, they'll take your head off. Learn that trick pretty quickly. So I went for the cheeky nephew routine, and it worked relatively well. So I did that, and then just progressed my way up because I've always been a bit of an undercover nerd. I just like learning things, but the things that I want to learn, not formal stuff that people make me learn.
Time management.
Yeah, I'm the epitome of one of those idiots that if you tell me to do something, I absolutely won't do it.
Do the opposite.
But if you'd have just asked me to do it, I'd gladly do it. So I just... My wife can play me like a blooming drum. Well, play me like a... Fiddle, whatever. My wife can manipulate me in many ways, that's what I'm saying. And my kids are learning now as well, which is a real shame for me. But yeah, so that I ended up being an account manager and then a national account manager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
fancy.
Yeah, so I don't really know what that meant. I was always national. I was teaching people how to cook pies all around the country before that. But Jimmy is national.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, so that was actually a pretty good exposure in terms of working for a small company, as a food business. I think we were turning over like 10 million quid. So that in the world of food is tiny. If you've got the QE2s of these behemoths going around, I don't even know if we'd have qualified for a dinghy at that size. I think we were probably on a paddle board, about 10 of us all holding on. But it was cool because it meant we could do things quickly. There wasn't masses of process. I just got thrown in the deep end, which was exactly what I wanted. But at the same time as having that sort of fluidity, you're sitting in commercial deals with Tesco's. And I might be getting wrong. You might have to fact check this, guys. Yeah. I think at that time, Tesco's were turning over 48 billion. So I remember looking at that going, what am I doing here? I was cooking pies like 6 months ago, and now I'm in a meeting talking about pricing. But just a great confidence booster. Because actually, if in your mid-20s, Phil used to politely say to me, you always looked older than you were, is his polite way of saying I looked like a knackered old man when I was younger. But and kids have not helped that, guys. Just if in your mid-20s you've been hanging around with people who are much, much more commercially astute than you are, really sharp on their numbers, very professional, it's just a great grounding. And every meeting you pretty much go into after that is less severe. So that was pretty cool.
And then what came next?
What came next? So the food company was owned by a chap, my current business partner, sometimes confused with my life partner. Don't help, he's a bloke with the name Kim. Yeah. Don't really help for the
I had
image.
to explain Kim, it's like, but Kim's a dude.
Yeah.
James.
I mean, to be fair, he's better looking than me, so, it looks like I'm batting. So I'll take it. I've just broke my show with that comment. It's marvellous. Kim came across in 2011 to be our finance director. So I met him there. Initially, he drove me bonkers because he did these really weird practices like counting how much money we actually had.
And said no to you.
Yeah. I had loads of great ideas where we could throw a load of money away. And he was like, let's not do that. I'm like, what? Ugh. Why are we doing inflatable sausage rolls? What's wrong with you, man?
Inflatable.
I've got genius ideas. Holding me back.
They'd sell in the northeast to be grand.
Yeah, exactly. And but actually, what happened was, started going for a pint. Both lived quite close to each other, and just slowly started to realise that whilst we are different people, really see the world in a very scarily similar way. And then you get to the point where you basically find out you kind of share the views of most scenarios that are happening. I mean, there's a little bit of us prattling on like fishwives in the pub, putting the world to rights and going to work and doing nothing about it. But, standard.
We could totally fix this. You can do anything about it.
Yeah, let's go and have a beer. What were we talking about? No idea. So he came across and he had an idea sort of revised an idea for a business, which was trying to use sort of loyalty points to get business owners trading. So at the time, Tesco's club card came in and that into his brain. He's an accountant by trade, but he will insist on me saying, he's not your normal accountant. Don't stereotype him. And he came up for an idea of a business. It was a very good idea. Dave and Kim launched this side business. So it wasn't really a group structure, but we're in the sharing resources. So it was literally in the same open plan office. And that just went like a rocket ship. Took a while to get going. There was Dave and Kim, and then there was two other people who subsequently left. And then they sort of got me to come across. I think Dave badgered me at a Christmas party to come across. I was like, why would I leave working with Tesco's to come across this crazy lunatic scheme that you guys have come up with that I don't know anything about? Anyway, it was probably the right decision because 2 years later it was turning over 20 million quid and there was about 60 odd people in it. So slightly fortuitous. And then we had really terrible titles like membership, that was sales, and strategy, which was just commercial. So I think I ended up being head of strategy at some point, which no one listened to any of my strategies. So I was just basically
head of harebrained schemes.
Yeah, but I was back to.
Oh, we need one of them, James.
I was back to inflatable sausage rolls. So that was that. On paper, really successful business. In reality, why are you wincing, Michelle?
I don't know. I was waiting for the swearing.
I think on paper, just the wrong collection of people. The team wasn't assembled based on getting people who were going to work together as a team. Like we talked about rugby earlier, about that sort of getting performing teams that have different roles and stuff. There was no vision. There was no culture. Like we hadn't agreed on any of this stuff, as lots of businesses don't do, And there was no bad people in it, but there were some really bad fits. I've probably been one of them. I look back on it, and as we've said, I'm a pain in the ass if I'm not on board. Everything about me is I'm in or I'm out. I'm not on the fringes. I'm not a 50%er. I am either in the team or I'm not. And people who are 50% piss me off. The people who will nod in a meeting and then complain in the corridor, or the people who will just do enough to sort of be seen to be, but they won't really commit to something.
Coasting.
Yeah. Not saying that my approach is the brightest approach, because sometimes you have to die on your shield, but that's just who I am. And if that's who you are, you should work with people who understand that's who you are. So basically, it was just a lesson. Like, out for the outside world, everything was going great, money was great, everything was fine. Inside, all of us were pretty miserable. Literally everyone. So
all 60 of you.
Yeah, well, particularly the group that were in sort of the office based down in Essex. And it wasn't any one person or anything like that. It was just, we all saw the world in different ways. And when you fundamentally see the world in different ways, I'm sure everyone who's listening, and we're all nodding, we've all worked in those situations where it's like, this isn't my tribe. And actually, it's no one's tribe. We're trying to do like totally different things at the same time. It's just never going to work. And so it got resolved in the best way, which is me and Kim left. So Kim got bought out. I got quite a nice deal to bugger off and stop being annoying. Thanks, Dave. And so what we do now was born out of just sheer frustration. So in terms of what ended up in that situation was having no idea how to assemble an effective team, having no idea about recruitment or any of that stuff. And so as an organisation, tried everything. You know, like agencies would use the big ones you've heard on TV on the top of Google. We used industry specialists. So we had a development team, so we'd use like these are the special recruiter developers. You know, they only do developers. Same result. With the local ones, oh, you guys are in Essex. You need to use Essex-based recruiters because that's where you've gone wrong. Did that, same result. And we had an internal recruiter as well who tried really hard but struggled. And again, because we haven't got a framework, we used the jobs boards and the CV sort of databases. And it all kept coming back to the same thing. Where recruitment is terrible is that it relies on the two major metrics people use on is job title, which means nothing. I mean, I've already given you a rundown of some of my great job titles, which meant nothing. You know, but the fact that you're a national account manager in one business does not mean you're the same role in another business just because it says national account manager on the CV. And the second thing that people rely on is experience. Now, I think the big argument is they're easy to measure, but they're not effective at getting you the right person. I mean, I'm talking to a clinical psychologist here, aren't I? So, you know... Business psychologist.
Not clinical.
It feels like clinical here. I'm going to get committed after this.
I don't have that power, sadly.
Thank God for that. But yeah, and the second thing was just experience, you know, so I think it just gets people off the hook. You know, oh God, I've got to get somebody in the business who's a business development executive, right? Or a business development manager, whichever your flavour of that title is. I've no idea what I'm doing. Right. Well, we won't sit down and work it out. What we'll do is we'll just get someone who's been that job title somewhere else for 3 years. Okay, let's do that. And what you end up with is, you know, who sets out in their life to say, God, I really want to be a business development manager? You fall into that job. And for 95% of jobs, it's probably pretty similar, non-specialist ones. And just trying to assemble a group of people together based on those two things, you get terrible results. And I just think that's criminal, really. It's just what a waste. Especially going back to rugby, like sport in general, and talking first hand, I'm crap at most of the sports, so I'm going to have to stick with rugby. So sorry if anyone's good at tennis out there and thinking, shut up about rugby, will you, pal? I'm rubbish at tennis, so you're getting rugby. That's your choice. Is they're just so much better at assembling teams than business. Like, the business world's mental. When it comes, it's not like you don't. Most people who are terrible at it support some sort of team that do it, even if it's Formula One. Formula One are brilliant at assembling absolute specialists under a team culture. This is what we're about, and they do it really well. Rugby, the same. You come into business and we're like, let's just imagine these aren't human beings, and we'll go with the job title and we'll go with this. Hey, they're not working out very well. No, they're not. It's funny that.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Oh no, I literally, it's my conversation I have with most people every day. So it's that CVs do not predict performance. Interviews do not predict performance. You know, experience, you can train people to do stuff. You know, it does not predict performance. It's after a certain number of years. It's bonkers. It really winds me up too. So yeah, this is probably why we bonded. Yeah. Yeah, hours and hours of arguing about how rubbish recruitment is generally across the country.
Yeah, it's not very.
World.
It's not very exciting. It's like lots of things. If it's not super exciting, whilst it's fundamental to your business, it's not like sales or marketing. So it's like, well, yeah, I don't need to do it, but I'll just kick that under there. I'll just pay someone to take it away. That's not worked. Yeah, it's rubbish.
Yeah, point the finger.
So that's the problem you found to fix.
That's what we're doing. So right now we have a business called Wavelength, and you can find us at yourwavelength.co.uk. And just essentially, we started out 4 years ago just trying to fix what peed us off. So with that business, we knew we were getting it wrong, and we spoke to other really successful businesses, that we could see, like turning over 100 mil plus. We're like, right, we're getting this wrong. How are you? You've obviously got the secret code because you're super successful and you know what you're doing, teams. All these different businesses, and everyone like universally just went, nah, it's a bit of a lottery. You win some, you lose some. I'm like, what?
Accident rather than design.
And I'm a massive nerd on The Secret, really. Well, not even that secret, but I've got a deep voice and I look a little bit like a pink-coloured Shrek. So I don't scream archetypal nerd. So I don't look like Screech from Saved by the Bell, but for you older listeners, is what I'm saying.
I love that.
Yeah. So I tend to read a book a week at the moment, just because I'm conscious I just don't know enough, and I just think I don't understand why people don't read. When you get like a book like someone who's spent 40 years becoming an expert at something, like a bona fide expert, not like an Instagram 5-minute job, but like they've spent 40,000 hours becoming a master practitioner at this, and for £5 you can have the book, and you can spend, I'm not a particularly quick reader, so you can spend a day reading what it is that they figured out.
And the shortcuts.
Yeah. Do you want 40 years worth for a £5 in a day? Well,
yes,
yeah.
please.
But the thing that's really telling is that no matter who you read, every single one of them all comes down to, if you don't have the right team, or to completely shamelessly rip off Jim Collins, if you don't have the right team on the bus, in the right seats, you're not going to make it.
Built to last.
Yeah. It's on that bookshelf right behind you. Yeah, but like, I read Shoe Dog not so long ago, the Nike story, and he basically summarises by saying, actually, in the end, when I look back on it, Phil Knight, that is, I was just really good at putting teams together. Richard Branson, all the cliches, the same things. It's so integral. Why is it so pants? What we do at Wavelength is create solutions to build effective teams of people so our partners can focus on growing the business.
So I'm just giving him a very silent standing ovation.
Oh, well, thank you.
I like that.
When you're looking back throughout life, your career, and you think about, say, your defining moments, going back to your younger self, what are the kind of things that come to mind?
Where I'm at now is definitely a why not? Why not have a crack? Why not have a go? Type thing. And that's kind of shaped from just life's events today. I mean, I'm only 34, so I'd like to think this isn't a midlife speech, or even shorter than that. I'd like to think this is at least a third. I've definitely got 100 in me. I had, so at age sort of 14 to 24, maybe 15 to 25, 5 people pretty close to me sort of pass away. The first one, which, so I mentioned my dad passed away, but actually the one that affected me the most was a good friend of mine, Ben Wass, aka Beanhead, who got leukemia when we were at school, and there's quite a few of us were close as friends, lived nearby, and I just remember that being like a really big wake-up call that actually life isn't fair, and life is a kick in the arse at times. And until then, I'd had quite a sheltered life. Do you know what I mean? Beverley's not the mean streets of Beverley. Yes, it's pretty nice. Good family. No one really got ill. And so he got leukemia. And one of my regrets to this day is that I didn't go and see him in the hospital. So he'd come out, do his chemo, come out and see him then and do stuff. But actually, I didn't go in. And it's one of my regrets to this day is that I didn't go in. And he passed away. And I've got to live with that. So, yeah. That shaped me a bit. I then had an auntie who passed away when I was, I think, 17 with lung cancer. That's not really a tragedy. It's sad, but it's not a tragedy. Ben was a tragedy. Your life gets snatched before you get a go. I then had a third person, was a guy I played rugby with in the sort of under 18s at Bedford. A guy called Harry Ewell, who was a smashing bloke. And he died when he was 20. And he died doing charity work in Ghana. He didn't take his malaria medication. He gave it to a kid from Ghana who didn't have medication, and he got it, and he passed away. Then my dad passed away when I was 21. My nan, who I was really close to, passed away when I was 25. So whilst that's quite sombre, how I've interpreted that and how I carry that forward is you don't get second chances all the time. Life's not always fair. And actually, most of the time you're feeling really depressed and worried about something, and just get over it, because actually it ain't that bad. And what is the worst thing that can happen to you? So that they've definitely been defining moments, right? And then rugby's been a big part of my life. And I remember I went from Beverley, just a complete different arena, but I went from Beverley, had to go through trials, didn't get in, and then the first year I got into a little sort of team East Yorkshire. I got into the Yorkshire team. I got spotted by one of the scouts for they were called Leeds Tykes. They were a Premiership team in the Yorkshire area, and I went and played for their academy. And when I got in that team, I was hands down the worst player in that squad by a mile. I was absolutely toilet, honestly. I was shocking. The first game I played, I can remember, was against Gloucester. It was in the scrum, and I was getting absolutely dominated. It's unbelievably how bad I was. So much so that the other Lou said he was a really good player and had played in the Premiership already, Mike Cusack, said to the ref, "He's never played rugby before, ref, sorry." I've been playing rugby at this point for about 10 years. I was just rubbish. But the reason why that's a real turning point is because the coach at the time was Stuart Lancaster, who went to coach on England and done a really good job at Leinster, was really good. The players were really good. And I got my head down and I worked hard. I went from being the worst player in that squad to 12 months later playing for England under 18s. And that, to me, is a defining moment, because what that shows me is it's just about comfort level. If you back yourself, you get into an environment you're not comfortable, that just means you get to grow. That's all that means. So you're in there, you're the worst player, it's quite embarrassing because you are hands down the worst player, and you just go in, you're just a little bit of stubbornness, and you're like, well, I'm not going to be the worst player, I'm just going to keep working. It's not going to come tomorrow, it's not going to come the next week, but I promise myself I will be one of the best players in this team. I'd say that the two things that spring to mind.
Because you've got a view on failure as well, don't you?
Yeah. So failure to me makes complete sense, and I know there are other people out there that share this, but there doesn't seem to be that many. Like, compared to the amount of people, people seem to worry about failing a lot, and I guess it comes from that. Having people like Ben and Harry who died young and they can't go forward, is that it ain't that bad. So you've only failed if you stop. So if you listen to it and you've got a business, you've got poor cash flow, or your business goes bust, if you're passionate about whatever it is you're doing, you don't have to stop. And you've only failed if you stop and you don't go back to it. Even if you stop, you dust yourself down a year later and come back, you haven't failed, you've just paused. So my attitude, I've failed at very few things in my life. That doesn't mean I'm great at loads of things. It just means I've refused to give up, or I'm still cracking on. Pretty much that's it. So a failure would be not going to see Ben in the hospital. Then he's not there. Failed, can't do that. But on the other hand, everything has to just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? It's not that bad, people. It's not that bad.
I'm not even going to mention the B word.
Yeah.
If you had to get on a bus, I don't know why it was a bus, but it's normally a DeLorean.
Time travelling bus.
Yeah, time
It's a
travelling
Jim
bus.
Collins time travelling bus.
Yes, of course.
Well, they had a train in the movie, so what's that?
Well, they did have a train, yes, of course.
yeah.
They have a bus as well, and a camper van.
That's the fourth movie.
Yeah.
We'll get on the phone to Spielberg or whoever. That wasn't him. It was
I have
it
no idea.
Zemeckis or someone. I don't know. Well,
not a Scooby. But what advice would you give to 18-year-old Jimmy?
Well, first of all, 18-year-old Jimmy wouldn't listen to anyone, so that'd be a complete waste of anyone's breath. God knows my mother tried and lots of other people. I don't think she's forgiven me for not going to Durham University. Sorry, Mother. So many things I'm not yet good at, and at 18 I was terrible at, and loads of wise wisdom that I've mainly nicked out of other people's books that I talked about earlier on.
Fine.
Standing on the shoulder of giants, but I wouldn't listen. And I'm a very big believer in, actually, it's about the journey as much as it is anything else, because you've got to learn yourself. Anyone who's got kids, you can't tell them anything. You've just got to steer them and let them learn for themselves. So the only thing I would say to 18-year-old me is make your choices, take your medicine, and you'll learn the hard way. And it's got me here. I am completely comfortable in my own skin. Spent a lot of my time and energy sort of self-reflecting and understanding what makes me happy. And realising that the happier you are, the more you can be there for others. Which can sound a bit weird. It can sound, I know some people are really conflicted, and I've been in the past, but you can be quite selfish doing that. You're just doing things that make yourself happy. Yeah, but if you're miserable, no one wants to be around you, and you're really hard work. And actually, if you figure out that having a 1 hour a day dog walk or a gym session is going to make you way, way better to be around, everyone wants you to do that because then you won't be a knob. So do that.
That'd be the title.
Yeah, don't be a knob. Oh, probably I Am a Giant Knob by Jimmy Armitage.
You mentioned the website earlier. Are there any other platforms that you're on?
The best way to get in touch with me personally is either a big LinkedIn user, so send me a personalised LinkedIn connection. If you just send me a spammy one, I've no idea why you want to meet me or talk to me or connect online.
That's how we met, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
LinkedIn friends.
LinkedIn friends.
Or if you're not on LinkedIn, literally everyone is, but if you're not, you could just send an email to our website, yourwavelength.co.uk, and it will find its way to me.
Well, thank you ever so much for allowing us to bother you in your freshly painted, beautiful office with your logo on the wall. Lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you ever so much.
Oh, cheers.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.